Here's a shocking truth. Most people will work for money for their entire lives and still never feel rich. They'll wake up early, sit in traffic, answer emails, deal with stress, collect a paycheck, pay bills, pay debt, maybe save a little, and then do it all again next month. And next year, and the year after that. From the outside, it can look like they're doing everything right, but behind the scenes, they're exhausted. Because no matter how hard they work, money seems to disappear faster than it comes in. Maybe you know that feeling. You get paid, and for one brief moment, life feels under control. Then the rent hits. The credit card bill hits. Insurance, groceries, gas, subscriptions, maybe a car payment, maybe student loans, maybe family responsibilities. And before you know it, that paycheck that was supposed to move you forward has only helped you survive. That's not freedom. That's financial treadmill living. And the dangerous part is this. Most people think the answer is to work harder, get a raise, pick up extra hours, start a side hustle, push more, sacrifice more. And yes, earning more matters. But here's the truth: wealthy people understand that most others never fully learn. You do not become rich by working for money alone. You become rich by owning assets. That is the entire game. Assets are the things that put money into your pocket. They pay you again and again, sometimes while you sleep, sometimes while you're on vacation, sometimes while you're spending time with the people you love. And in 2026, this idea will matter more than ever. Why? Because the world is changing fast. Prices are rising. Job markets are shifting. Technology is replacing old ways of earning. Entire industries are being reshaped. And the people who rely on one paycheck and no real assets are becoming more financially vulnerable every year. Meanwhile, the people who understand how to build income-producing assets are quietly pulling ahead, not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, and not because they were born rich. They're pulling ahead because they learned a different set of rules. This audiobook is about those rules. It's about the 7 assets that can change your financial future in 2026. Assets that can help you build income, reduce financial stress, manage debt wisely, and create real wealth over time. Some of these assets are things you can buy. Some are things you can build. Some are things you can grow from scratch, even if you don't have much money right now. And that's important, because this audiobook is not just for people with 6 figures in the bank. It's for the person who feels behind. The person who is tired of living month to month. The person who knows they need to make a change but doesn't know where to start. The person who wants more control, more peace, and more options. If that sounds like you, stay with me. Listen all the way to the end, because this is not just a list of ideas. It's a roadmap. By the end of this audiobook, you'll understand which assets matter most, which ones fit your life, how to avoid the traps that keep people stuck, and how to begin building wealth step by step, even if your starting point is messy. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be a financial genius, and you do not need to have everything figured out today. You just need to start seeing money differently. Because once you stop asking, how can I work more for money? And start asking, how can I make money work for me? Your entire financial life can begin to change, and that change can start now. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The New Rules of Wealth: Why 2026 Will Reward Asset Owners. Let's start with a simple question. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to get richer no matter what the economy is doing, while others work harder every year and still feel stuck? It's not always because one group is more talented. It's not always because one group got lucky. And it's definitely not always because one group works harder. A lot of the time, the difference comes down to one thing. Some people spend their lives earning money. Other people spend their lives building things that earn money for them. That is the shift. That is the dividing line. And in 2026, that line will become even more obvious. For a long time, people were taught a simple formula: go to school, get a good job, work hard, save money, and eventually you'll be fine. That formula worked reasonably well in a different era. When housing was cheaper, college was cheaper, healthcare was cheaper, and a single income could carry a household more comfortably, the traditional path made more sense. But look around now. A raise often disappears into higher rent. A promotion gets eaten by taxes and lifestyle costs. A bigger paycheck somehow doesn't feel bigger at all. Why? Because the world changed, but the financial advice most people follow did not. Today, it's not enough to just make money. You have to keep it, grow it, and position it so it can work without your constant labor. That's what asset owners understand. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, increases in value over time, or gives you leverage so your effort produces bigger rewards. It could be a rental property, a business, stocks, a digital product, a valuable skill, even a system that helps you automatically invest every month. Now compare that with how most people live. Most people spend their best years building someone else's dream. They trade time for money. They sell hours, energy, attention, and health in exchange for a paycheck. Then they use that paycheck to buy liabilities, things that look impressive but drain them financially. A car payment, bigger rent than they can comfortably afford, clothes to maintain an image, gadgets they don't need, subscriptions they forgot about, debt that quietly multiplies in the background. Then they wonder why money feels tight even when income rises. That's not a math problem. That's a wealth behavior problem. And behavior matters because money is never just numbers. Money is emotion. Money is identity. Money is fear, status, pressure, comparison, hope, and habit all rolled into one. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to make an emotional money decision when you're stressed? You tell yourself you deserve something because you've had a hard week. You upgrade your lifestyle because your friends did. You avoid looking at your bank account because facing reality feels uncomfortable. You put off investing because you think you need more money first. You stay in survival mode because it feels familiar, even when it's slowly draining your future. This is why the new rules of wealth aren't just about finance. They're about psychology. The wealthy don't just think differently about money, they think differently about time, ownership, and control. They ask questions like, how can I make this income repeat? How can I own a piece of what grows? How can I stop depending on one source of money? How can I use today's effort to create future cash flow? That's a very different mindset from simply asking, how can I earn a little more this month? Let me give you a real-life example. Imagine two people, David and Marcus. David earns a solid salary. He's responsible, hardworking, and respected at his job. Every year he gets a raise, and every year his expenses somehow expand with it. He moves into a nicer apartment, gets a more expensive car, starts eating out more, upgrades his vacations. Nothing outrageous, just a little more comfort each year. On paper, he's doing better. In real life, he still feels pressure. If his job disappeared tomorrow, his lifestyle would become a problem within weeks. Marcus earns less than David at first, but Marcus becomes obsessed with one idea: ownership. He saves aggressively, learns basic investing, and starts a small side business online. It doesn't make much in the beginning, but he treats it like a seed, not a hobby. He puts part of his money into index funds every month. He keeps his lifestyle lower than he could afford. A few years later, his side business earns recurring income. His investments have grown. He now has more than one stream of money coming in. Who looks richer in year 1? David. Who is building real wealth in year 5? Marcus. That's the difference between looking successful and becoming financially strong. And 2026 is going to reward Marcus-type thinking. Why? Because the economy is becoming more uneven. Technology is accelerating. Jobs are changing faster. Companies are leaner. Loyalty in the workplace is weaker than it used to be. Entire careers can be disrupted by automation, outsourcing, AI, or market shifts. That doesn't mean jobs are useless. Jobs are important. Jobs can be the engine that funds your first investments. Jobs can provide stability, training, and starting capital. But a job alone is no longer a complete financial plan. If your entire life depends on one paycheck, one boss, one company, one schedule, and one source of income, you are more fragile than you may realize. And fragility is expensive. If you want to feel stronger financially in 2026, you need to move from a single-income mindset to an asset-building mindset. That doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow and trying to become a millionaire overnight. That kind of thinking usually leads to bad decisions. Wealth is rarely built through one giant leap. It's built through steady, intelligent stacking. One asset, then another, then another. It starts small. Maybe your first asset is not real estate. Maybe it's a skill that makes you more valuable. Maybe it's a savings cushion that keeps you from going into debt every time life surprises you. Maybe it's $200 a month going into index funds. Maybe it's a small online business that eventually earns while you sleep. Maybe it's paying off toxic debt so your income stops leaking away in interest. The point is not to impress people. The point is to build something that makes your financial life more resilient. And resilience is the new wealth. Think about that for a moment. A lot of people define wealth by appearances. Nice house, nice car, luxury brands, fancy vacations, but appearances can be rented. Wealth is deeper than that. Wealth is the ability to handle shocks without falling apart. Wealth is breathing room. Wealth is options. Wealth is being able to say no. Wealth is not panicking every time the economy turns ugly. Have you ever wondered why some people stay calm during financial downturns? It's usually because they have assets, cash reserves, low fixed expenses, and multiple ways to produce income. Their life isn't built on one fragile pillar. It's built on a foundation. That foundation changes how you think, how you sleep, how you make decisions, and how you show up in the world. When you don't have assets, every financial setback feels personal. Every expense feels heavier. Every mistake feels more dangerous. When you do have assets, life still happens, but you have support underneath you. That's why this chapter matters. Because before we talk about the 7 specific assets that can make you rich in 2026, you need to understand the rules behind them. Here are some of the new rules of wealth. Rule 1. Income matters, but ownership matters more. A high income can make you look rich. Ownership is what makes you become rich. If you earn a lot but own very little, you are running fast on a treadmill. If you own income-producing assets, your money starts gaining momentum beyond your labor. Rule 2. Saving cash is not enough. Saving money is important, especially for emergencies. But if all your money sits still while inflation rises, your purchasing power quietly shrinks. In other words, playing defense alone won't get you ahead. You need some of your money in places where it can grow. Rule 3. Debt can either destroy you or serve you. Not all debt is equal. Credit card debt at high interest can trap you for years. Debt used carefully to acquire productive assets can help build wealth. The key is simple. Does the debt fund consumption, or does it fund cash flow and growth? Rule 4. Your lifestyle can be your greatest asset or your greatest enemy. A modest lifestyle gives you room to invest. An inflated lifestyle steals your future. The more money you need just to maintain appearances, the less freedom you actually have. Rule 5. Time is the multiplier. People often underestimate how powerful consistent action becomes over time. A small investment repeated monthly matters. A skill improved every day matters. A business built one customer at a time matters. Wealth often looks slow until one day it looks sudden. Rule 6. You need more than one stream of opportunity. This doesn't mean juggling 10 chaotic side hustles. It means building financial optionality. You want more than one way to survive, more than one way to grow, and more than one way to win. So what should you do with this information right now? Let's make it practical. Action step 1. Audit your current financial life. Ask yourself, what do I own that puts money in my pocket? What do I own that takes money out of my pocket? If my paycheck stopped for 90 days, what would happen? Am I building assets or just managing bills? Be honest. No shame, just clarity. Action step 2. Track where your money is leaking. Most people don't have an income problem first. They have a leakage problem. Interest payments, impulse spending, convenience spending, lifestyle creep. These things quietly kill your ability to build assets. Action step 3. Start buying back your financial future. That might mean paying down toxic debt, building an emergency fund, starting automatic investing, learning a high-income skill, launching a small side income stream. You do not need to do everything at once. You need to do the next smart thing. Action step 4. Stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an owner. Before buying something, ask, will this make me richer or just look richer? Will this create future income or future bills? Am I buying comfort today at the expense of freedom tomorrow? That question alone can change your life. 2026 will not be kind to people who drift financially. It will reward people who are intentional, people who build, people who own, people who understand that money is not just something to earn and spend, but something to direct. And that's good news, because you do not need to be born wealthy to play this game well. You just need a new lens. You need to see your paycheck not as the finish line, but as the fuel. You need to see your expenses not just as monthly obligations, but as choices with long-term consequences. You need to see assets not as something rich people have, but as something ordinary people can start building one step at a time. That's how wealth begins. Not with hype. Not with shortcuts. Not with lottery thinking. It begins the moment you decide that your life will no longer be built on income alone. And once you make that decision, everything changes. Because from that point on, every dollar has a job. Every skill has a purpose. Every investment has a direction. Every asset becomes a worker in your financial life. And the more workers you put on your side, the less you have to carry alone. So as we move into the next chapter, keep this question in your mind. If 2026 is going to reward asset owners, what is the first asset you are finally ready to build? That answer might shape the rest of your life. Chapter 2. Asset 1. Cash-flowing businesses that pay you every month. Let's talk about one of the most powerful assets in the world, a business that sends you money every single month. Not once, not when your boss approves overtime, not when the economy feels generous, not when luck decides to smile on you. Every month. Have you ever wondered why business owners often seem to move financially faster than employees, even when they don't always work harder? It's because a good business gives you something a job rarely can: leverage. At a job, your income is usually tied to your time. You work, you get paid. You stop working, the money often stops too. With a business, especially a business built around repeat customers, systems, and recurring demand, your effort can keep paying you long after the original work is done. That's a completely different game. Now let's be clear from the start. When I say business, I'm not just talking about opening a giant company, renting office space, hiring 20 employees, and taking huge risks. That image scares people away before they even begin. A cash-flowing business can be surprisingly simple. It could be a local cleaning company with recurring clients, a landscaping business with monthly contracts, a bookkeeping service for small businesses, a digital marketing agency, a newsletter with paid subscribers, an online store with repeat customers, a consulting service, a YouTube channel monetized through ads, sponsors, and products, a software tool with monthly subscriptions, a car wash route, a vending machine route, a mobile detailing business, a property management service, a niche online course business. The form matters less than the function. What you want is a business that solves a real problem and gets paid regularly for that solution. That's what creates cash flow. And cash flow matters because it changes your relationship with money. It gives you breathing room. It creates options. It reduces fear. It gives you something many people have never had: income not controlled by one employer. That's why this asset is so powerful in 2026. The world is moving toward flexibility, niche expertise, direct-to-consumer businesses, online distribution, and low-overhead entrepreneurship. In plain English, that means ordinary people now have more ways than ever to build small but profitable businesses without needing a lot of money to start. Years ago, starting a business often meant needing a storefront, inventory, staff, equipment, and significant capital. Today, someone with a laptop, a phone, a useful skill, and consistency can build something real. But here's the part most people miss. A business is not an asset just because you call it a business. If you've created a job for yourself, one where you do everything, everything depends on you, and income disappears the moment you stop, that's not yet a true wealth-building asset. It may be a starting point, and that's okay, but the goal is to build beyond self-employment into something with systems, repeatability, and cash flow. That's the difference between being busy and being wealthy. A lot of people start side hustles that stay side hustles forever because they never ask the right question. How do I make this business less dependent on me and more dependent on systems? That one question can turn hustle into an asset. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman named Alina. She starts baking custom cakes from home. At first, it's just extra money. She takes orders through text, shops for ingredients herself, bakes every cake personally, handles customer service, does delivery, and posts on social media whenever she remembers. She's talented and customers love her work. But there's a problem. If Alina gets sick, income stops. If Alina wants a vacation, orders stop. If Alina gets overwhelmed, growth stops. She has income, yes, but she doesn't yet have an asset. Now imagine Alina gets smarter. She narrows her offer to high-margin celebration cakes and monthly dessert boxes. She creates a simple ordering system online. She hires part-time help for prep and delivery. She builds relationships with event planners. She creates templates, standard pricing, and recurring subscription options. Eventually, the business runs in a more structured way. Now what happens? She's no longer just baking. She's building a system that produces cash flow. That is how a business becomes an asset. And if you listen carefully, you'll notice something important. Businesses that make people rich are rarely the flashiest ones. They're often boring, practical, and needed. People love talking about the sexy stuff, startups, viral brands, overnight success stories. But many wealthy people built fortunes through unexciting businesses that solve recurring problems. Trash collection, pest control, accounting, HVAC, auto repair, logistics, laundry services, senior care, commercial cleaning, software for a niche industry, education products, maintenance services. Why? Because boring problems don't disappear. And when a problem keeps showing up, customers keep paying. Have you ever noticed how wealth often hides behind ordinary businesses most people ignore? That's because rich is not always glamorous. Rich is useful. Rich is repeatable. Rich is reliable. Now let's talk psychology, because this is where many people lose before they even begin. A lot of people secretly believe business is for other people. For risk takers, for extroverts, for people with money, for people who are naturally confident, for people with connections. That belief is expensive. Because if you believe entrepreneurship belongs to some special club, you'll never even test your own potential. The truth is, many successful business owners were not fearless when they started. They were uncertain, messy, inexperienced, sometimes awkward, sometimes overwhelmed. What separated them wasn't superhuman confidence. It was willingness. Willingness to look silly at first. Willingness to learn while moving. Willingness to hear no. Willingness to improve. Willingness to stay in the game long enough to become good. That's an important lesson because business ownership is as much a psychological journey as a financial one. It forces you to deal with rejection. It forces you to communicate clearly. It forces you to solve problems. It forces you to become more disciplined. It forces you to think in terms of value, not just effort. At a job, you can sometimes get rewarded for showing up. In business, the market rewards usefulness. That can be scary, but it's also liberating, because it means you don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to hope someone notices your potential. You don't have to sit around waiting for a raise. You can create value directly and get paid for it. That's powerful. Now let's get practical. What makes a business a strong monthly cash flow asset? There are a few qualities you should look for. 1. Recurring demand. The best businesses solve problems that come back again and again. People don't just need their lawn cut once. They don't need bookkeeping once. They don't need marketing once. They don't need software once. They don't need cleaning once. Recurring problems create recurring payments. That's why subscription models, service retainers, maintenance contracts, and repeat purchase products are so powerful. 2. Healthy margins. Not all revenue is good revenue. Some businesses look busy but make very little profit because expenses eat everything. You want a business where the difference between what comes in and what goes out is strong enough to actually build wealth. A business doing $20,000 a month with terrible margins can leave the owner stressed and broke. A business doing $8,000 a month with strong margins and low overhead can be life-changing. 3. Simplicity. Complex businesses are harder to run, harder to scale, and easier to break. In the early stages, simple wins. Simple offer, simple pricing, simple customer journey, simple delivery. Complicated impresses people. Simple pays people. 4. Systems. This is where a business begins to feel like an asset instead of a burden. A system can be a repeatable sales process, standard pricing, automated billing. Templates for customer service, scheduled marketing, delegated task software that handles routine work. Every system reduces your personal involvement and increases the business's independence. 5. Customer trust. People buy from businesses they trust. Trust is built through consistency, clarity, and delivering what you promise. A business with trust can charge more, retain customers longer, and grow through referrals. Now let's talk about real-world examples of cash-flowing businesses ordinary people can start. A man with a pickup truck starts a junk removal service. At first, it's just weekends. Then he builds local partnerships with realtors, landlords, and contractors. Jobs become regular. Eventually, he hires a team and focuses on sales and operations. A woman who understands bookkeeping starts serving solo business owners. She charges monthly retainers. Her clients don't want one-time help. They need support every month. Her income becomes predictable. A former teacher creates digital study materials for a specific exam. At first, sales are random. Then she builds an email list, a membership community, and a library of products. Now old work keeps selling. A skilled barber opens a small studio and later trains others under his brand. At first, income depends on his chair. Later, the business earns from multiple chairs, products, and appointments run through a system. Different industries. Same principle. Solve a recurring problem. Get paid repeatedly. Build systems. Reduce dependence on your own hours. Now let me say something important. A business does not need to be huge to be life-changing. This is where social media has confused people. Everyone wants scale, millions, and explosive growth. But there is incredible power in a business that quietly makes $3,000, $5,000, or $10,000 a month in dependable cash flow, especially if it's profitable and partly systemized. Why? Because steady cash flow can pay off debt faster, fund investments, build your emergency reserve, reduce dependence on your job, give you leverage in life decisions, buy you time, and time, once again, is one of the greatest forms of wealth. Have you ever wondered what would change in your life if you had one extra stream of income showing up every month no matter what? Maybe you'd sleep better. Maybe you'd stop tolerating a job you hate. Maybe you'd stop using credit cards to survive emergencies. Maybe you'd start investing with confidence. Maybe you'd feel hope instead of constant pressure. That is why cash-flowing businesses matter so much. They don't just grow your bank account. They change your emotional relationship with money. Now, if you're thinking, this sounds good, but where do I start? Let's make it simple. Step 1. Identify a problem you can solve. Ask yourself, what do people already ask me for help with? What skill do I have that saves people time, stress, or effort? What service do businesses or busy people regularly need? What frustrating problem do I understand better than most? Start there. Step 2. Choose a business model with recurring revenue potential. Instead of asking, how can I make one sale? Ask, how can I create repeat customers? Could you offer monthly services, subscriptions, maintenance plans, retainers, memberships, refill or reorder products? One-time sales can help. Recurring revenue creates stability. Step 3. Start small and validate demand. You do not need a logo, fancy website, and perfect branding before you begin. You need proof that someone will pay. Get your first customer, then your second, then your third. Perfection is often procrastination wearing a nice outfit. Step 4. Track numbers early. Know revenue costs, profit, customer acquisition. Retention time spent. If you ignore the numbers, you're not building a business. You're just staying busy. Step 5. Build one system at a time. What can be templated? What can be automated? What can be delegated? What can be simplified? This is how freedom gets built. Step 6. Use business cash flow wisely. One of the biggest mistakes people make is pulling all the cash out of a growing business to fund lifestyle upgrades. The business starts making money, and immediately the owner starts spending more. That kills momentum. Instead, use early cash flow to Build reserves, improve systems, reduce debt, invest in growth, buy other assets. Let your business become a financial engine, not just a spending excuse. And remember this, every business begins awkwardly. Your first offer may be rough. Your first sales conversation may be uncomfortable. Your first month may be small. Your first systems may be messy. That's normal. The goal is not to look polished on day one. The goal is to become valuable enough, consistent enough, and smart enough that the market starts rewarding you repeatedly. That's what this asset is all about. A business that pays you every month is more than income. It's proof that value can be created outside a paycheck. It's proof that your financial life can expand beyond employment. It's proof that you can build something that supports you instead of constantly draining you. And once you experience that shift, even on a small scale, you begin to think differently forever. You stop seeing money only as something earned by labor. You start seeing money as something produced by systems, ownership, and value creation. That is a major leap in wealth building. So let me leave you with a question. What problem could you start solving today that people would still gladly pay you for next month? Because the answer to that question might not just become a side hustle. It might become your first real cash-flowing asset. Chapter 3. Asset 2. Real estate that builds wealth while you sleep. Let's talk about one of the oldest wealth-building tools in the world. Real estate. Just hearing that word can trigger all kinds of reactions. Some people get excited because they've heard stories of landlords becoming millionaires. Some feel intimidated because they assume real estate is only for people with big salaries, perfect credit, or rich parents. Some feel skeptical because they've also heard horror stories: bad tenants, repairs, market crashes, rising interest rates. And all of those reactions make sense. Real estate is not magic. It is not effortless. It is not risk-free. But when it is bought wisely, financed carefully, and managed with discipline, it can become one of the most reliable assets for building long-term wealth. Have you ever wondered why so many wealthy people, across generations, eventually end up owning real estate? Because real estate can do something powerful that few assets can do all at once. It can generate cash flow. It can increase in value over time. It can give you tax advantages. It can let you use leverage. And it can quietly build equity while someone else helps pay for it. That combination is rare. A paycheck pays you once. A stock may grow, but it usually doesn't let you borrow against a hard asset the same way real estate does. A business can produce huge wealth, but it often comes with more volatility and hands-on pressure. Real estate sits in a unique middle ground. It's tangible. It's understandable. People will always need a place to live, work, store things, or run businesses. That makes it deeply connected to real human behavior. And that's why in 2026 it still matters. Now, let's clear up one big misunderstanding right away. When people hear real estate investing, they often picture apartment towers, luxury flips, or giant portfolios. But wealth in real estate is often built one property at a time. One smart decision, one cash-flowing unit, one house hack, one rental, one duplex, one small move that compounds over the years. That's how normal people do it, not through flashy headlines, through patience. And patience is not boring when it's making you richer while you sleep. Let me explain the core idea in simple language. When you buy the right property in the right way, you can benefit in 4 directions at once. First, the property may produce monthly cash flow if the rent coming in is more than the costs going out. Second, the property may appreciate, meaning the value of the property may increase over time. Third, your tenant may help pay down the loan, which means your equity grows month after month. Fourth, you may get tax benefits depending on where you live and how the property is structured. That's why real estate is so powerful. You can win from income, growth, debt paydown, and tax efficiency all at once. Now compare that to how most people buy property. Most people buy based on emotion first. They ask, do I love the kitchen? Can I picture myself here? Does it look impressive? Will people be impressed by this neighborhood? Investors ask different questions. Will this property cash flow? What are the total carrying costs? What's the expected maintenance? What is the vacancy risk? How strong is the local demand? What happens if interest rates stay high? What happens if rent drops? That difference matters, because buying a home to live in and buying real estate as an asset are not always the same thing. A home can be a wonderful personal decision. It can create stability, pride, and emotional security. But an investment property must first make financial sense. And this is where many people go wrong. They buy real estate hoping the market will save them, instead of buying based on numbers that already work. Hope is not a strategy. Cash flow is. Have you ever noticed how some people call themselves real estate investors, but what they really own is stress? That happens when they overpay, overborrow, underestimate repairs, ignore vacancy, and assume everything will go perfectly. Real estate only builds wealth when it is approached with discipline. Let's talk about leverage, because this is one of the reasons real estate can accelerate wealth so dramatically. Leverage means using borrowed money to control a larger asset. For example, imagine a $300,000 property. You might only put down a portion of that, but if the property rises in value, your return is based on the full property, not just your down payment. That's powerful. If the property also produces monthly income and your tenant helps pay down the mortgage, you're building wealth with a mix of your money, borrowed money, and the tenant's money. That sounds incredible, and it can be. But leverage is like fire. Used carefully, it can cook your food. Used recklessly, it can burn your house down. This is why not all debt is bad, but all debt deserves respect. Good real estate debt is debt tied to a productive asset, something that generates income and has a strong chance of holding or increasing its value over time. Bad real estate debt is debt on a property that drains your cash every month, leaves no margin for error, and depends on perfect market conditions to survive. This is where psychology matters again. People often get in trouble in real estate not because they don't understand numbers, but because they get emotional. They fear missing out. They rush into deals because everyone else seems to be buying. They assume prices always go up. They want to look successful. They want the identity of being an investor more than they want the discipline of being one. That's dangerous. Wealth comes from patience, not ego. A smart investor can look at 10 properties and say no to all 10. A reckless investor sees one trendy neighborhood and convinces themselves the math doesn't matter. The math always matters. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine two people, Jasmine and Eric. Jasmine buys a duplex in a working-class neighborhood with steady rental demand. It's not glamorous. The building isn't trendy. No one on social media would call it exciting, but she lives in one unit and rents out the other. The rent covers a large portion of the mortgage. Over time, she improves the property, raises rents modestly, and eventually moves out and rents both sides. Now the property creates monthly cash flow and keeps building equity. Eric buys a beautiful single-family home in a hot market because he's convinced prices will keep rising. The mortgage is high. The taxes are high. Repairs are expensive. It doesn't cash flow as a rental unless everything goes perfectly. He's betting on appreciation alone. When expenses rise and rates stay high, the deal becomes tight. He owns real estate, yes, but the property owns his peace of mind. Who is actually building wealth? Jasmine. Not because her property is prettier, because her numbers are stronger. That's one of the most important lessons in real estate. The best deals often feel ordinary. Now let's talk about different ways real estate can make you money. One, rental cash flow. This is the most obvious one. You buy a property, rent it out, and the rent exceeds the expenses. Expenses include mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, property management, vacancy allowance, repairs, HOA fees if applicable. The key is being honest. A lot of beginners fool themselves by ignoring real costs. They only look at the mortgage and assume the rest won't matter much. Then the water heater breaks, the roof leaks, the tenant moves out, and suddenly the great investment is a monthly burden. 2. Appreciation over long periods. Well-located properties tend to rise in value. Not every year. Not evenly. Not without risk. But over time, appreciation can be a major wealth engine. This is why location matters so much. You want areas with real demand drivers. Job growth, population growth, transportation, access, good schools, low crime, economic stability. 3. Loan paydown. One of the quietest forms of wealth in real estate is equity built through mortgage paydown. Every month, part of the loan gets reduced. You may not feel it day to day, but over years, that can become substantial. 4. Forced appreciation. This is where smart investors create value instead of waiting for the market to do it. They renovate kitchens, improve layouts, increase curb appeal, reduce expenses, or improve tenant quality. They make the asset more valuable through action. This is a big mindset shift. Consumers hope value rises. Investors create value where they can. Now, if you're listening and thinking, "This sounds good, but I don't have enough money to buy a rental property," don't tune out. There are multiple entry points into real estate. One of the best beginner strategies is called house hacking. That means buying a property and living in part of it while renting out the rest. It could be a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, a house with a basement apartment, a home where you rent spare rooms, a small multifamily property where your tenants help cover the mortgage. Why is this so powerful? Because it allows you to enter real estate with lower risk, lower living costs, and first-hand experience as an owner. Instead of waiting years to save for some perfect investment property, you use your own housing decision as a stepping stone into asset ownership. Another path is investing in REITs, real estate investment trusts. These let you invest in real estate through the stock market without directly owning and managing property. It's less hands-on, more liquid, and often easier to start with smaller amounts of money. You won't have as much control, but it's still a way to benefit from real estate if direct ownership feels too far away right now. That's important to remember. You do not need to start big. You need to start intelligently. Let's talk about the biggest mistakes people make in real estate. Mistake 1. Buying based on emotion. If you fall in love with a property before you study the numbers, your brain starts defending the deal instead of evaluating it. Mistake 2. Underestimating expenses. Repairs are not optional. Vacancy is not fictional. Tenants do not always stay forever. Real estate rewards people who budget for reality. Mistake 3. Over-leveraging. Just because a bank will lend you the money does not mean the deal is wise. A property with no safety margin can become a source of panic quickly. Mistake 4. Chasing appreciation. Only if the property only works if prices keep rising. You are speculating, not investing. Mistake 5. Ignoring property management, a rental is not passive if it is mismanaged. Good systems matter. Tenant screening matters. Maintenance response matters. Whether you self-manage or hire help, management quality can make or break returns. Now let's make this practical. What should you do if you want real estate to become part of your 2026 wealth plan? Step 1. Strengthen your financial foundation before buying. Improve the basics. Build an emergency fund. Reduce high-interest debt. Improve your credit. Save for down payment and closing costs. Learn how much you can truly afford, not just what a lender might approve. Step 2. Learn your market. Study neighborhoods. Compare rents. Track listings. Understand vacancy rates. Know what local employers are doing. Learn what kinds of units are in demand. You make money in real estate by knowing what other people overlook. Step 3. Run the numbers conservatively. Don't use optimistic rent estimates. Don't ignore repairs. Don't assume zero vacancy. Don't count on magical appreciation. If the deal still looks good with conservative assumptions, now you're thinking like an investor. Step 4. Start with a manageable property. Your first property should not be your most complicated one. Simpler is better. A clean, affordable, well-located property with solid demand often beats a dream deal that stretches your finances. Step 5. Build systems from day one. How will rent be collected? How will repairs be handled? How will tenants be screened? How will reserves be maintained? A property becomes more passive when operations become more predictable. And let's not forget one of the biggest benefits of real estate. It can train you to think long-term. That's rare in a world where people want immediate results. Real estate reminds you that wealth is often built quietly. A tenant pays rent, a loan balance goes down, a neighborhood improves, a property rises in value, a second property becomes possible, a portfolio begins. One move leads to another. One asset funds the next. That's how people wake up 10 or 15 years later and realize they own a machine that has been building wealth in the background while they lived their lives. Have you ever wondered what your future would look like if, instead of just paying for housing every month, you were slowly owning assets that paid you back? That's the power of real estate. It turns one of life's biggest expenses into a possible wealth-building engine. Not every deal will be good. Not every market will be easy. Not every year will be smooth. But if you respect the numbers, manage the risk, and think like an owner instead of a dreamer, real estate can become one of the most dependable assets in your financial life. The goal is not to own property just to say you do. The goal is to own property that works for you, property that creates income, property that builds equity, property that gives you leverage, property that grows quietly while you sleep. And once you understand that difference, you stop asking, "Can I buy real estate?" You start asking a much better question. How can I buy the kind of real estate that makes my life financially stronger year after year? That's the question asset owners ask. And it's the question that can change your future. Chapter 4. Asset 3. Stocks, index funds, and ownership in the global economy. Let's talk about one of the simplest and most misunderstood ways to build wealth: owning a piece of the global economy. That's what stocks really are. When you buy a stock, you are not just buying a blinking number on a screen. You are buying a small ownership stake in a real business. A business with employees, products, customers, profits, problems, opportunities, and the potential to grow over time. That's an important shift in thinking. Because most people think about money in only two ways: spend it or save it. They earn money. They use some of it to live. Maybe they save what's left. But wealthy people often think about money a third way. How do I turn this money into ownership? And that question changes everything. Have you ever wondered why some people become wealthy without ever starting a company, buying rental property, or inventing anything? It's because they quietly buy ownership in companies that are already doing all of that. They own the stores people shop in, the software companies businesses depend on, the logistics networks that move goods around the world, the healthcare companies treating millions of patients, the energy companies powering cities, the brands people trust, the factories, systems, and platforms woven into modern life. They become wealthy not because they are working at every one of those companies, but because they own a piece of them. That is one of the great financial advantages of the modern world. You do not need millions of dollars or insider connections to become an owner. You can start with very little. What matters more is consistency, time, and emotional discipline. And that last part matters a lot, because while investing in stocks and index funds can be simple, it is not always emotionally easy. The stock market is a machine that rewards patience and punishes panic. That's why two people can have access to the same information, the same funds, the same economy, and still end up with very different outcomes. One sticks to the plan. The other gets scared, greedy, distracted, or impatient. This chapter is about helping you become the first person. Let's start with the basics. A stock represents ownership in a company. If the company grows, becomes more profitable, and the market values it more highly, the stock can rise in price. Some companies also pay dividends, which are cash payments made to shareholders. An index fund is different. Instead of trying to pick one winning company, an index fund owns many companies at once. It simply tracks a market index, like the S&P 500, which holds large U.S. companies, or a total market fund that spreads your money even more broadly. Why does that matter? Because diversification reduces the risk of betting too heavily on any one company. If you buy one stock, you might be right or very wrong. If you buy an index fund, you are making a different bet. You are betting that over time, human progress, business innovation, productivity, and economic growth will continue. That's a much broader, more durable bet. And for most people, it's the smartest one. Now let's address the biggest emotional barrier people have with investing. I don't know enough. That feeling is common. It's understandable. And if you're not careful, it can keep you stuck for years. A lot of people believe investing is only for experts, people in suits, people on finance TV, people who know how to read complicated charts and speak in market jargon. But here's the truth. You do not need to be brilliant to become wealthy in the stock market. You need to be consistent and hard to scare. That's it. In fact, trying to be too clever often hurts people. They chase hot stocks. They jump in and out of trends. They buy what's going up because it feels exciting. They sell what's going down because it feels dangerous. They confuse movement with progress. And over time, all that activity can quietly destroy returns. Have you ever noticed how people often bring their worst emotions into money decisions? When prices rise, they feel invincible. When prices fall, they feel doomed. When everyone is excited, they want in. When everyone is fearful, they want out. That's not investing. That's emotional reacting. The market has a strange habit of making people feel exactly the wrong thing at exactly the wrong time. When stocks are expensive and optimism is everywhere, people feel safe buying. When stocks are cheaper and future returns may actually be better, people feel scared. That's why investing is partly a financial skill and partly a psychological skill. You have to learn how to sit still. You have to learn how to zoom out. You have to understand that volatility is not the same as danger. A temporary drop in price is not always a permanent loss. Sometimes it is simply the admission price for long-term wealth. Let me give you an example. Imagine two friends, Nina and Chris. Nina starts investing at age 28. She puts a fixed amount into a low-cost index fund every month, no matter what the headlines say. Some months the market goes up. Some months it drops. During scary periods, she keeps buying. During exciting periods, she keeps buying. She doesn't try to predict the next crash or the next boom. She follows a simple system. Chris wants to invest too, but he keeps waiting for the right time. When the market looks high, he waits for a drop. When the market drops, he gets nervous and waits for more clarity. When things recover, he feels like he missed the opportunity and starts looking for a better entry. Then he gets distracted by crypto, hot stocks, or whatever people are bragging about online. 10 years later, who is more likely to be wealthier? Usually Nina. Not because she had better predictions, because she had better behavior. That is one of the most powerful truths in investing. Your results often depend less on what you know and more on whether you can stick with what works. Now let's talk about why index funds deserve special attention. For most people, index funds are the financial equivalent of not trying to be a hero. And that's a compliment. Instead of betting on one company, one sector, or your own ability to outsmart the market, index funds say, I will own a broad slice of business activity and let time do the heavy lifting. That approach has several advantages. First, it is simple. Second, it is low cost. Third, it is diversified. Fourth, it removes the pressure to constantly make decisions. And fewer bad decisions often means better results. Think about that. A lot of wealth is not built by doing brilliant things. It is built by avoiding stupid things repeatedly. Not panic selling, not chasing hype, not overtrading, not trying to predict every twist and turn of the economy. Just buying ownership regularly and holding it long enough for compounding to work. Compounding is one of those ideas people hear about all the time, but many don't fully feel until they see it in action. Compounding means your money earns returns, and then those returns begin earning returns too. At first, it feels slow, almost disappointing. This is where many people quit. They invest for a year or two, don't see dramatic results, and start thinking it doesn't matter. But wealth often grows like a snowball. At the beginning, the snowball is small. It rolls slowly. It doesn't look impressive. Then over time it gets larger and every turn adds more snow than the last. Growth begins to accelerate. This is why time matters so much. A person who starts investing modest amounts early can often end up with more wealth than someone who starts later with larger amounts. Not because the first person earned more, because they gave compounding more years to work. Have you ever wondered why so many wealthy older investors sound almost boring when they talk about money? Because after enough time, they realize the game is less about excitement and more about endurance. They understand that time beats timing, consistency beats intensity, discipline beats drama. Now, that doesn't mean stocks are always easy to own. There will be periods when the market drops sharply. There will be recessions. There will be scary headlines. There will be years when people say, this time is different. And maybe some things will be different. But human behavior usually is. Fear and greed still drive markets. People still overreact. Companies still innovate. Economies still adapt. Strong businesses still find ways to survive and grow. That's why owning the market through index funds can be so powerful. You do not need to know which single company will dominate the future. You only need to believe that productive businesses, taken together, will continue creating value over time. Now let's talk about individual stocks. Can they make you rich? Absolutely. Can they also hurt you badly if you don't know what you're doing? Absolutely. Buying individual stocks is not automatically wrong. In fact, some people enjoy researching businesses and are willing to accept more risk. But you need humility. One company can stumble, management can fail, competition can rise, markets can shift. A stock can look unstoppable until it suddenly is. That's why many smart investors use a balanced approach. They keep the core of their portfolio in broad index funds and only use a smaller portion for individual stock ideas, if at all. That way, curiosity doesn't destroy the foundation, and foundations matter. Now let's deal with another common excuse. I don't have enough money to start. This is one of the most damaging beliefs in personal finance, because what people really mean is, I don't think small beginnings matter. But small beginnings matter a lot. If you invest a modest amount consistently, you are doing two things at once. You are building money and you are building identity. You are becoming someone who owns assets, someone who thinks long-term, someone who pays their future self first. That identity shift is huge. A person who invests $100 a month consistently may not feel rich right away, but they are building a habit that can scale as income grows. A person who waits until they feel ready often wastes years, and those years are expensive. Now let's make this practical. If you want stocks and index funds to become part of your wealth plan in 2026, what should you actually do? Step 1. Learn the difference between saving and investing. Saving is for short-term safety. Investing is for long-term growth. Your emergency fund should not be sitting in a volatile stock portfolio if you might need it soon. That money should be safe and accessible. Money you won't need for years can be invested for growth. Step 2. Start with low-cost index funds. If you're a beginner, broad index funds are often the best place to begin. They remove guesswork and spread your money across many companies. Look for broad market exposure, low fees, simplicity, a structure you understand. Step 3. Automate your investing. This may be the most important action step in the chapter. Set up automatic investing. Why? Because automation protects you from your moods. When you automate, you invest when you're busy, when you're distracted, when you're nervous, and when the headlines are loud. You stop relying on willpower and start relying on systems. That is how real wealth gets built. Step 4. Ignore the noise. Financial media makes money from grabbing your attention, not from improving your long-term returns. There will always be urgent headlines, crashes, booms, predictions, doom, euphoria. Most of it is noise. Ask yourself, will this matter in 10 years? If the answer is no, it probably doesn't deserve emotional control over your portfolio. Step 5. Increase contributions as your income grows. One of the smartest moves you can make is to raise your investing amount whenever your income rises. If you get a raise, don't let all of it disappear into lifestyle inflation. Send part of it to your future. Step 6. Stay invested during hard times. This is where wealth is often decided. When markets fall, many people freeze or sell. But downturns are part of the deal. If your time horizon is long, lower prices can actually be opportunities to buy ownership at a discount. This is easy to say and hard to do. That's why your mindset matters so much. You have to stop seeing market drops only as pain and start seeing them as part of the process. Now let's talk about a deeper truth. Investing is not just about money. It's about learning how to trust a long-term process in a short-term world. That may be one of the hardest things for modern people to do. We are surrounded by instant everything. Instant entertainment, instant delivery, instant opinions, instant reactions. But wealth is still mostly old-fashioned. It rewards patience. It rewards repetition. It rewards calm. That's one reason so many people know what to do but still don't do it. The strategy is simple. The waiting is hard, yet that waiting is where the magic lives. Every month you buy assets. Every year your base grows. Every cycle you survive. Every downturn you outlast. Every dividend you reinvest. Every moment of discipline adds another brick to the wall. Then one day you look back and realize something important. You are no longer just a worker trying to keep up with bills. You are an owner. You own productive businesses all over the world. You have money working while you sleep. You have assets growing while you live your life. That is a profound change. And the beautiful part is that it does not require perfection. It requires participation. So let me leave you with a question. If the global economy keeps growing, innovating, and creating profits over the next decade, do you want to simply watch that happen? Or do you want to own part of it? Because that choice, repeated month after month, can quietly shape your entire financial future. Chapter 5. Asset 4. Skills that increase your income for life. Let me start with a truth that most people don't fully appreciate until much later. One of the most valuable assets you will ever own is not in your bank account, your portfolio, or your property. It's in you. Your ability to earn, your ability to solve problems, your ability to communicate, persuade, adapt, and create value. That is an asset. And unlike a car, it doesn't depreciate the moment you buy it. Unlike a single stock, it doesn't depend on one company. Unlike one job, it doesn't disappear just because someone else changes strategy. A high-value skill goes with you. Wherever you go, it goes. Whatever economy shows up, it shows up with you. Whoever hires you or doesn't hire you, you still own it. That's power. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to recover quickly from setbacks, layoffs, recessions, or career changes, while others feel completely trapped? A big part of the answer is skills. People with valuable, transferable skills can often rebuild faster because they are not depending on one title, one company, or one narrow opportunity. They know how to create value in different environments. This is why skills are one of the most underrated wealth-building assets of all. A lot of people think wealth begins when you have money to invest. But often, wealth begins earlier, with the skill that increases your income enough to give you money to invest in the first place. That's important, because many people are trying to build wealth with too little fuel. They're focused on tiny investment returns while ignoring the most immediate lever in their life, their earning power. If you can increase your income through better skills, you can save more, invest more, recover faster, and create more options. That's not theory, that's math, but it's also psychology, because people often underestimate themselves in this area. They assume, I'm just not that talented. I'm too old to learn something new. I'm not naturally good with people. I'm not technical enough. I'm not entrepreneurial. I missed my chance. Those stories can keep someone financially stuck for years. And let's be honest, many people were never taught to see themselves as economic assets. They were taught to get through school, get a job, follow instructions, and stay safe. They were not taught how to identify what the market pays for, how to become unusually valuable, or how to turn skills into leverage. So they drift. They stay busy but not strategic. They work hard but don't become more valuable. They hope loyalty will be rewarded. They wait to be noticed. And while they wait, the world changes. That's why 2026 will reward people who keep learning. Technology is moving fast. Industries are shifting. AI is changing workflows. Competition is becoming global. Routine work is being squeezed. People who can think, communicate, sell, lead, adapt, and solve meaningful problems will keep rising in value. The market does not pay you for how hard your life feels. It pays you for how useful your skills are. That may sound blunt, but it's actually empowering. Because it means your future is not locked. You can become more valuable. Now let's talk about what kinds of skills really matter. Not all skills are equal in the marketplace. Some skills are enjoyable but don't create much income. Some are highly technical but have narrow use. Some are always useful because they connect to money, decisions, trust, or problem solving. The most valuable skills often do one or more of these things. They help make money, they help save time, they help solve expensive problems, they help reduce risk, they help communicate clearly, they help influence people. They help systems run better, they help businesses grow. That's why certain skills keep showing up across industries. Sales, communication, negotiation, marketing, copywriting, leadership, project management, technology fluency, data interpretation, customer service, content creation, relationship building, financial literacy, problem solving. These are not just career skills. They are wealth skills. Have you ever wondered why a person with average technical ability but excellent communication often outturns someone with stronger technical knowledge but poor people skills? Because value is not just created. It must be understood, trusted, and delivered. If you can solve a problem but can't explain it, sell it, or build trust around it, your income ceiling may stay lower than it should. That's why communication is such a powerful meta skill. Whether you're an employee, a freelancer, a business owner, a manager, or an investor, your ability to express ideas clearly affects what people are willing to pay you, trust you with, and follow you into. The same goes for sales. Now, some people hear sales and shut down immediately. They picture manipulation, pressure, slick tactics, fake enthusiasm. That's not real sales. Real sales is understanding needs, building trust, and helping someone move from a problem to a solution. If you can do that ethically, you will never be poor for long, because every business needs revenue. Every person needs to persuade. Every professional needs buy-in. Every leader needs influence. Selling is not just about selling products. It's about communicating value. And if you don't learn how to do that, you may spend your whole life being more capable than your income reflects. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine two graphic designers. Both are talented. Both know the software. Both produce solid work. One waits for job posts, sends generic applications, and struggles to explain why a client should choose them. Their income stays inconsistent. The other learns how to position their work in business terms. They explain how design affects conversions, trust, and customer perception. They build relationships, present confidently, and learn how to retain clients on monthly packages instead of one-off jobs. Same technical foundation, different income. What changed? Skill stacking. That idea is incredibly important. You do not always need to be world-class at one thing. Sometimes the biggest income jumps come from combining several useful skills at a good level. Maybe you are decent at writing, decent at marketing, and decent at understanding human behavior. Together, that can become powerful copywriting. Maybe you understand fitness, content creation, and audience building. Together, that can become a profitable personal brand. Maybe you know bookkeeping, client communication, and systems. Together, that can become a high-value service business. Wealth often hides in combinations. Now let's talk about another hidden reason skills matter so much. Skills build confidence that is based on reality, not fake confidence, not motivational poster confidence, real confidence, the kind that comes from knowing, I can create value, I can learn, I can solve problems. If I lose this opportunity, I can build another. That changes how you walk through life. People with weak skills often cling to security. People with strong skills create security. That difference is massive, and this is especially important in uncertain times. If 2026 brings more change, more competition, and more economic pressure, your best defense may not be fear. It may be becoming more useful. Now, what are some of the highest value skills to focus on? Let's break a few down. 1. Sales. If you can sell, you can earn in almost any industry. Sales teaches persuasion, listening, objection handling, confidence, and value communication. It can help you as an employee, entrepreneur, freelancer, or investor. 2. Communication, writing clearly, speaking clearly, explaining ideas simply, leading conversations well. These abilities affect promotions, client trust, team influence, and opportunities. 3. Marketing. Marketing is about understanding attention, demand, positioning, and customer behavior. If you know how to connect a product or service to the right audience, you become extremely useful. 4. Negotiation. People leave enormous amounts of money on the table because they hate negotiating. Salary offers, freelance rates, business contracts, partnerships, purchases. Negotiation affects all of them. 5. Technology fluency. You do not need to become a software engineer. But in a world shaped by digital tools and AI, being comfortable with technology, automation, analytics, and online systems is a serious advantage. 6. Leadership and project management. Businesses pay well for people who can organize chaos, lead teams, hit deadlines, and turn goals into execution. 7. Financial literacy. Understanding cash flow, debt, taxes, investing, margins, and return on investment changes the way you make decisions forever. Now let's address a hard truth. A lot of people stay financially stuck because they confuse experience with growth. They've been doing the same kind of work for years, so they assume they're becoming more valuable. But if the market doesn't value the skill more, or if the work is becoming easier to replace, then time alone doesn't guarantee higher income. You can spend 5 years repeating the same year 5 times. That's why intentional learning matters. Have you ever wondered why some people get dramatically better over a few years, while others seem to stay in the same place despite working just as hard? Because one group is practicing with direction, the other is just accumulating time. Time helps. Focused improvement helps more. Now here's the good news. Building valuable skills has never been more accessible. You can learn through online courses, free videos, books, communities, mentors, freelance projects, apprenticeships, side jobs. Practice in public. The barrier is often not access. It's discipline. People say they want to earn more, but then they spend hours every day consuming entertainment instead of building capability. That's not a judgment. That's just a pattern worth noticing. Your future income is often hidden inside your current habits. Now let's make this practical. How do you turn skills into an actual asset? Step 1. Identify which skill would give you the biggest income lift. Ask yourself, what skill would make me more valuable in my current job? What skill could help me get a better job? What skill could help me start a side income? What skill is in demand and aligns with my strengths? Don't try to learn everything at once. Pick one. Step 2. Choose a marketable skill, not just an interesting one. There's nothing wrong with learning for fun, but if your goal is wealth, ask, does the market pay well for this? Who pays for it? How directly does it connect to business results or human problems? Step 3. Build proof, not just knowledge. A lot of people stay stuck in learning mode forever. They take courses, watch videos, read books, take notes. But the market pays for demonstrated value, not private understanding. So build. A portfolio, a case study, a sample project, a small client, result, a real-world application. Proof creates confidence and opportunity. Step 4. Practice communication around your skill. Can you explain what you do? Can you explain why it matters? Can you show the result it creates? Can you make your value easy to understand? If not, income may stay lower than it should. Step 5. Raise your standards as your skills improve. Your pricing, salary expectations, and boundaries should improve too. Many skilled people stay underpaid because their self-image has not caught up with their value. This is where psychology sneaks back in. You may need to outgrow old stories, old fear, old identity, old comfort zones, because sometimes the real limit is not your ability. It's your willingness to claim your ability. Let me give you an example. A man works in customer support for years. Smart guy, dependable, underpaid. He keeps telling himself he's not really technical. But he notices his company constantly relies on people who understand systems, reporting, and workflow automation. So he starts learning those tools in his spare time. Nothing dramatic, just steady effort. Over time, he becomes the person who can simplify processes and save hours. He moves into operations, then into systems management. His income jumps, not because he changed as a human being overnight, but because he built a skill the market values more. That's how this works. A woman in healthcare realizes she is excellent at explaining complex information to patients and organizing chaotic workflows. She develops leadership and project management skills, moves into administration, then consulting. Same work ethic, better skill alignment, bigger income. That's what I want you to see. You do not always need a whole new life. Sometimes you need a more valuable version of yourself. And the beautiful part is this: skills can fund every other asset in this audiobook. Skills can help you earn the money to invest. Skills can help you run a business. Skills can help you evaluate real estate deals. Skills can help you negotiate better terms. Skills can help you avoid expensive mistakes. Skills can help you create digital products. Skills can help you lead, sell, manage, and grow. That's why this asset is so foundational. No one can guarantee what the economy will do. No one can guarantee what one company will do. No one can guarantee your exact career path. But if you keep becoming more useful, you keep improving your odds. And improving your odds year after year is what wealth is all about. So let me leave you with a question. What one skill, if you took it seriously over the next 12 months, could permanently raise your earning power for the rest of your life? That is not a small question, because the answer may not just increase your income. It may change your identity, your options, your confidence, and your future. Chapter 6. Asset 5. Digital assets that scale without limits. Let's talk about one of the biggest shifts in wealth creation happening right in front of us. A person can create something once and get paid for it again and again. That is the power of digital assets. Think about that for a second. In the old model, most income came from direct labor. You worked 1 hour, got paid for 1 hour. You did the job, completed the task, collected the paycheck, and then had to do it all over again. Digital assets break that pattern. A video can be watched 1,000,000 times. A course can be sold thousands of times. A piece of software can serve users around the world while you sleep. A newsletter can build trust and generate income month after month. An ebook, a template pack, a membership, a digital product, a website, an app, a content library. These things can keep working long after the original effort is over. That is scale. And scale is one of the great wealth multipliers of our time. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to make money from work they did months or even years ago? Because they built assets, not just tasks. That distinction matters. A task gets done once. An asset keeps producing value. And in 2026, digital assets are becoming even more important because the barriers to creating them have never been lower. You no longer need a giant company, a publishing deal, a TV network, or a physical storefront to reach people. One person with useful knowledge, a clear message, and consistent effort can build something meaningful online. That doesn't mean it's easy. It does mean it's possible, and possible changes everything. Now let's clear up a common misunderstanding. A digital asset is not just something online. It's something online that has the potential to create income, attention, trust, or leverage repeatedly without starting from zero each time. That could be a YouTube channel with monetized videos, a blog that earns through ads, affiliate links, or products, a paid newsletter, an online course, a membership community, ebooks. Templates, digital design, packs, music licensing, photography, libraries, software tools, mobile apps, e-commerce systems, print-on-demand designs, affiliate content, educational products, a personal brand that attracts customers. The point is not the format. The point is the repeatability. A digital asset can be created once and distributed endlessly at very low cost. That's what makes it special. A physical product often requires more inventory, shipping, storage, and logistics. A service often depends on your time. A digital asset can often be sold 1,000 times without 1,000 times more work. That's financial leverage. Now, I want to slow down here, because this chapter can easily trigger fantasy thinking. People hear digital assets and imagine fast passive income, easy money, and a laptop lifestyle with no effort. That image has been sold hard online. But let's be honest. Most digital assets are not passive in the beginning. They are front-loaded. You often work hard up front for little or no reward. You create, you test, you improve, you publish, you learn, you build an audience, you hear crickets, you keep going. That's the part many people don't want to hear. But it's also the part that creates opportunity, because most people quit before the asset has time to become valuable. Have you ever noticed how people love the idea of leverage but hate the phase where leverage has to be built? That's why so few people benefit from it. They want scale without consistency, results without repetition, audience without contribution, income without trust. Digital wealth doesn't usually work that way. The internet is full of opportunity, yes. It is also full of noise. To stand out, you need one of a few things: a useful skill, a valuable perspective, a real solution, a clear niche, a compelling voice, a system people want, a tool that saves time, money, or stress. You do not need to be famous. You do need to be useful. That is one of the most liberating truths in online business. A lot of people assume they need massive audiences to make money. They think if they don't have millions of followers, none of this applies to them. That's not true. A person with 1,000 true fans can build a real business. A creator with a niche audience can sell specialized products. A consultant can use content to attract high-value clients. A teacher can turn expertise into digital resources. A developer can build a small tool for a specific pain point. A designer can sell templates to people who need speed and quality. Big attention is nice. Specific value is better. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman named Priya who works in human resources. She notices that many job seekers struggle with resumes, interviews, and salary negotiation. She starts posting short, practical videos online sharing advice. At first, almost nobody watches. She keeps going. Over time, a small audience forms. People start asking for more detailed help. She creates a resume template pack, then a digital interview guide, then a paid workshop, then a course, then a newsletter with job search tips. What happened? She turned knowledge into assets. She is no longer only getting paid for the hours she works at her job. She has built digital tools that solve a problem repeatedly. Or think about a fitness coach. In the old model, they could only earn by training one client at a time. In the digital model, they can build a workout app, meal guides, video programs, subscriptions, and content that brings in leads 24/7. Same knowledge, different delivery, bigger leverage. That's what digital assets do. They multiply the reach of your effort. Now let's talk about why this matters psychologically. For many people, digital assets create something deeper than money. They create agency. Agency means you are no longer fully dependent on permission. You don't have to wait for a boss to give you a raise. You don't have to hope someone notices your value. You don't have to stay trapped inside one local job market. You can build something direct, something owned, something with your name on it, something that reaches people without a gatekeeper. That kind of control is emotionally powerful. It can reduce fear, increase confidence, open options, create resilience. And in a world where jobs can shift quickly, having something of your own online is becoming more and more valuable. Now let's get practical. What makes a strong digital asset? 1. It solves a real problem. People pay for clarity, speed, convenience, transformation, entertainment, or access. The stronger the problem you solve, the stronger your digital asset can become. Ask, what frustration am I helping people reduce? What result am I helping them achieve? What pain am I making easier? 2. It is scalable. Can one piece of work reach many people? Can it be sold or consumed repeatedly? Can it be delivered with low extra effort? This is the heart of digital leverage. 3. It builds trust. A lot of digital assets are really trust assets in disguise. A newsletter, a channel, a blog, or a social account may not make huge money on day one, but they can build an audience that trusts you. And trust can later turn into sales, partnerships, clients, or products. 4. It can improve over time. One of the best things about digital assets is that they are editable. You can refine a product, improve a sales page, update a course, optimize a funnel, test titles, improve design, and increase conversion over time. 5. It is owned, not just rented. This is a huge one. If all your income depends on a platform you don't control, that's risky. Algorithms change, policies change, reach changes, accounts disappear. That's why smart digital builders try to own at least part of the relationship through email lists, websites, communities, customer lists, products, and systems they control. An audience you rent can disappear. An audience you own becomes a real asset. Now let's talk about different types of digital assets and how they work. Content assets. These include YouTube videos, blogs, podcasts, and social content. Content can attract attention for years if it is useful, searchable, or evergreen. A video answering a common question can keep bringing in viewers. A blog post can rank in search results. A podcast episode can introduce new listeners to your brand. A social post can lead someone to your product or service. Content is often the front door. Information products. These include courses, e-books, guides, templates, and workshops. If you know how to do something useful, there may be a way to package that knowledge into a digital product. This works especially well when the result is clear. How to pass an exam, how to get clients, how to edit videos, how to meal prep, how to improve credit, how to use a software tool, how to study more effectively. People pay for shortcuts, organization, and trusted guidance. Software and tools. This is one of the most scalable models of all. Software can solve repetitive problems at scale. That's why SaaS, software as a service, has created so much wealth. Now, not everyone is going to build the next big software company, but niche tools matter too. A simple app for a specific industry can become very valuable if it saves time or reduces friction. Digital commerce systems, online stores, print-on-demand shops, digital marketplaces, affiliate websites. These can all become assets if built strategically. The product matters, but so does the system: traffic, offers, retention, and customer experience. Audience-based assets, a newsletter, email list, private community, or niche following can become incredibly valuable because attention plus trust plus relevance creates monetization opportunities over time. Now, what stops people from building digital assets? Usually not technology. Usually fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of being ignored. Fear of looking inexperienced. Fear of not knowing what to make. Fear that the market is too crowded. Fear that someone else is already doing it better. And those fears are real. But here's the problem: if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never start. The early stage of building online can feel awkward and invisible. You publish something and nobody responds. You launch and only a few people buy. You create something and compare it to people who have been doing it for years. That's where a lot of dreams die. Not because the person lacked talent, because they lacked patience. Digital assets often require a delayed gratification mindset. You plant before you harvest. You publish before you're known. You improve before you're rewarded. You keep showing up before momentum appears. That's hard, but it is also where the edge is. Most people are not willing to stay consistent through low attention and slow results. If you are, you immediately separate yourself. Let's make this actionable. Step 1. Choose a problem, not a platform. Don't start with, should I start a YouTube channel or a newsletter? Start with, what problem can I solve repeatedly for a specific group of people? The platform is just the delivery vehicle. Step 2. Pick a simple asset to build first. You do not need an empire. You need a starting point. That could be a short ebook, a paid guide, a template pack, a mini course, a YouTube channel, a niche newsletter, a digital toolkit, a simple paid community. Start with one thing. Step 3. Build around what you already know or are learning. You do not need to be the world's top expert. You need to be helpful and honest. Sometimes people make money not by being 10 years ahead, but by being 2 steps ahead of the person they help. Step 4. Focus on consistency over intensity. A lot of people sprint for 3 weeks and disappear. Digital assets reward steadiness. 1 useful post a week. 1 email a week. 1 video a week. 1 product improvement each month. Consistency compounds. Step 5. Collect direct relationships. If people find your content useful, get them onto an email list or into a community you control. This turns random attention into a true asset. Step 6. Monetize in layers. You don't need one giant payday. You can monetize gradually. Maybe content leads to affiliate income, then to consulting, then to a digital product, then to a membership, then to sponsorships. Layered monetization is powerful because it turns one digital ecosystem into multiple income streams. Step 7. Reinvest into your best performing asset. When something starts working, don't get distracted too quickly. Improve the product. Improve the funnel. Improve the distribution. Improve the customer experience. One good asset made stronger is often better than 5 half-built ideas. Now let's talk about one of the best parts of digital assets. They are not limited by geography. A local service business is powerful, but often tied to a place. A digital asset can reach someone in another city, another country, another time zone while you sleep. That is extraordinary if you really think about it. A teacher in one country can sell to students around the world. A writer can build a global audience. A niche expert can serve a very specific tribe scattered across continents. A tool can solve the same problem for thousands of people with almost no extra delivery cost. That's why the upside can be so large. And even if you never build something huge, digital assets can still transform your finances. An extra $500 a month from a digital product matters. An extra $2,000 a month from a niche audience matters. A course that sells while you work your regular job matters. A website that brings leads into your service business matters. Not every digital asset has to become a unicorn. It just has to become useful, repeatable, and profitable. So let me leave you with this question. What knowledge, skill, experience, or solution do you already have that could be turned into something people can access, buy, or benefit from online again and again? That's the real opportunity. Because once you start thinking this way, you stop seeing the internet only as a place to consume. You start seeing it as a place to build. And when you build digital assets that scale, your effort is no longer trapped inside the clock. It starts multiplying. That is one of the most powerful financial shifts you can make in 2026. Chapter 7. Asset 6. A strong balance sheet. Killing toxic debt and keeping strategic debt. Let's talk about something that quietly controls more lives than most people want to admit. Debt. Not the glamorous version. Not the "I leveraged capital" version people like to brag about online. I mean the real thing. The monthly payments, the stress, the interest piling up while you sleep, the feeling that no matter how much you earn, something is always already spoken for. Have you ever wondered why some people make decent money and still feel broke all the time? A big part of the answer is not just what they earn. It's what they owe. This chapter matters because building wealth is not only about collecting assets. It's also about cleaning up the financial leaks that keep your money from ever gaining momentum. You can build a side business, invest in stocks, and dream about real estate. But if high-interest debt is dragging behind you like an anchor, progress gets slower, harder, and more emotionally exhausting. That's why a strong balance sheet is an asset. A balance sheet is simply a snapshot of what you own and what you owe. Assets on one side, liabilities on the other. Most people don't think this way. They think in terms of monthly survival. Income comes in, bills go out, and if there's anything left, they breathe for a moment. But wealth is built by people who step back and ask a better question. What is my financial position actually becoming over time? Am I getting stronger, or am I just staying busy? That is the real issue, because someone can look successful on the outside and still have a weak balance sheet. Nice car, expensive apartment, designer clothes, vacations, upgraded lifestyle, and underneath it all, they are leveraged to the ceiling with little savings, rising payments, and no room for error. That's not wealth, that's financial fragility dressed well. A strong balance sheet gives you something far more valuable than appearance. It gives you stability, options, breathing room, negotiating power, sleep. And if 2026 brings more economic uncertainty, rising costs, or shifting job markets, then a strong balance sheet becomes even more important. It is one of the clearest signs that your financial life is maturing. Now, here's the key distinction for this chapter. Not all debt is equal. That sentence alone can save people years of confusion. Some debt is toxic. Some debt is strategic. Toxic debt takes money out of your future and gives you very little in return. Strategic debt is used carefully to acquire or build something that has a strong chance of increasing your income, net worth, or productive capacity. You need to know the difference, because one can trap you. The other, used wisely, can accelerate you. Let's start with toxic debt. Toxic debt usually includes high-interest consumer debt. Credit cards carried month-to-month personal loans, used for consumption buy-now-pay-later habits stacked across purchases, auto debt on vehicles far beyond your means, retail financing for things that lose value quickly, payday loans. Any borrowing driven by impulse, image, or survival without a plan. Why is this debt so dangerous? Because it steals from your future income. You are not just paying for the original purchase. You are paying for the purchase plus time plus stress plus reduced flexibility. And the higher the interest rate, the more brutal the drag becomes. Imagine buying something for $1,000. Now imagine paying back much more than that because the balance lingers, compounds, and multiplies through interest. That extra money is not building your future. It is feeding the cost of your past. That's why toxic debt is so destructive. It turns old decisions into long-term financial friction, and the psychological damage can be just as serious as the math. Debt creates invisible pressure. It can make you stay in jobs you hate because you cannot afford a gap in income. It can make you avoid opportunities because you need certainty. It can make you anxious every time your phone rings or your card gets swiped. It can make couples fight. It can make people feel shame, even when they're trying hard. A lot of people are not lazy. They are just financially compressed. That compression changes behavior. When debt gets heavy, people become more reactive, more short-term, more exhausted. They stop planning and start surviving. That's why paying off toxic debt is not just a financial move. It's a psychological rescue mission. Have you ever noticed how a person with no debt stress often makes calmer, wiser decisions than someone earning more but drowning in payments? That's because peace has economic value. Now let's talk about why people fall into toxic debt in the first place. Sometimes it starts with emergencies. A medical bill, a job loss, a family crisis, a period of low income. And that deserves empathy, not judgment. But sometimes it starts with something else, normalization. Debt has been normalized so deeply in modern life that many people barely question it. Monthly payments are framed as ordinary. Everything can be financed. Everything can be split into installments. The question becomes, can I afford the payment? Instead of can I afford the purchase? That is a dangerous shift, because if you measure affordability only by the monthly payment, almost anything can look manageable for a while. That's how people end up trapped. Add lifestyle pressure, comparison, social media, and the emotional desire to reward yourself after a hard week, and it becomes very easy to borrow for things that do not truly improve your long-term life. The market is very good at making consumption feel like progress. It is. Now let's turn to strategic debt. Strategic debt is debt used to acquire something that can reasonably increase in value, generate income, or improve your long-term earning power. That might include a well-purchased rental property that cash flows, a business loan, used carefully to fund profitable growth and education or skill investment. With a clear return on income, a mortgage on a home you can truly afford and plan to hold responsibly, equipment financing that directly supports revenue production. The key word in all of this is strategic, not emotional, not careless, not wishful, strategic. Strategic debt is planned, it is measured, it has margin, it has a purpose. It is attached to an asset or outcome with a reasonable path to value creation. Here's a simple way to think about it. Toxic debt funds consumption. Strategic debt funds production or durable value. That distinction won't solve every edge case, but it gives you a strong lens. Let me give you an example. Two people both borrow money. One finances an expensive car they don't need because they want the image, the comfort, and the thrill. The car loses value quickly, the payment strains cash flow, and the insurance is high. That debt is likely toxic. The other uses financing to buy a modest van for a cleaning business that already has customers lined up. The vehicle directly helps generate income. That debt may be strategic if the numbers work and the risk is controlled. Same act, borrowing money. Very different outcome. That's why debt itself is not the whole story. Use matters, structure matters, intent matters, math matters. And this is where many people get confused because they hear wealthy people say things like, use debt to build wealth. What they don't always hear is the discipline behind that statement. Wealthy people who use debt effectively usually have cash reserves, multiple income streams, strong credit, good financial literacy, margin for error, an asset or business. With proven economics, people in financial trouble often hear the same sentence and try to copy the behavior without the foundation. That's how debt goes from tool to trap. A hammer is useful in skilled hands, dangerous in reckless ones. Now let's talk about the emotional side of paying off toxic debt, because this is where many people lose momentum. Debt payoff can feel boring, very boring. You make sacrifices. You send money to balances. Your lifestyle doesn't suddenly look impressive. There's no applause, no flashy upgrade, no visible reward at first. That's hard in a culture that celebrates visible wins and ignores invisible strength. But debt reduction is one of the highest guaranteed returns many people can get. If your credit card is charging 20% or more, paying that down is like stopping a financial fire. Few investments can reliably outperform the benefit of escaping that kind of interest drain. And there is something emotionally powerful that happens when balances start shrinking. You feel lighter. You feel more in control. You begin to trust yourself again. You stop dreading your own numbers. That matters. Let's imagine a real-life example. A man named Andre earns a decent living, but he has credit card debt from years of lifestyle drift, a car payment that is too high, a personal loan from an old emergency, no real emergency fund. Every month he tells himself he needs to start investing more. But every month, interest and payments eat up his flexibility. He feels like he's running in place. Then he gets serious. He stops pretending. He lists every debt. He cuts unnecessary spending. He sells a few things. He picks up extra income temporarily. He keeps a small emergency cushion so he doesn't fall backward. Then he starts attacking the highest interest debt first. 12 months later, his life feels different, not because he won the lottery, because he removed pressure. Now he has room to save, room to invest, room to breathe. That room is an asset. Now here's an important question. How do you know when debt is helping you and when debt is owning you? Ask yourself. Is this debt attached to something that produces income or lasting value? Can I comfortably make the payments even if life gets harder for a while? Do I have reserves, or am I one surprise away from panic? Am I borrowing because the math is strong or because I want something now? If this asset doesn't perform as expected, can I still recover? Is this debt increasing my options or reducing them? That last question is powerful. Good financial decisions usually increase options. Bad debt usually reduces them. Now let's make this practical. If you want a stronger balance sheet in 2026, what should you actually do? Step 1. Know your numbers. No more vague stress. No more guessing. List all debts, interest rates, minimum payments, due dates, remaining balances, assets you own, savings, monthly income, and expenses. Clarity comes before control. Step 2. Separate debt into two categories, make two columns. Toxic debt, strategic debt. This helps you stop lumping everything together emotionally. Some debt needs to be attacked aggressively. Other debt needs to be monitored and managed intelligently. Step 3. Build a small cash buffer. One reason people stay trapped in debt is that every little emergency pushes them backward. A modest emergency fund helps break that cycle. You do not need perfection first. You need a little stability. Step 4. Attack high-interest debt with intensity. There are different methods, but one of the most effective financially is the avalanche method. Pay minimums on everything and put extra money toward the highest interest debt first. The snowball method, starting with the smallest balance first, can also work if psychological momentum is what you need most. The best method is the one you will actually stick to. Step 5. Stop creating new toxic debt. This sounds obvious, but it's where many plans fail. You cannot dig out while digging deeper. That may mean cutting cards, temporarily reducing temptation, delaying purchases, changing social habits, creating spending rules. Learning to sit with discomfort instead of soothing it with shopping. That last point matters more than most people realize. A lot of debt is emotional. It comes from stress relief, comparison, boredom, sadness, reward seeking, or wanting to feel successful. If you do not address the behavior, the balance may come back. Step 6. Protect strategic debt from becoming toxic. If you have a mortgage, business loan, or other strategic debt, keep asking, does this still make sense? Do the numbers still work? Do I have enough cushion? Am I respecting the risk? Strategic debt requires ongoing honesty. Step 7. Track your net worth over time. Even if the number starts small or negative, tracking it changes your mindset. You begin thinking like a builder instead of just a bill payer. Now let's talk about something subtle but important. A strong balance sheet creates courage. Not reckless courage, calm courage. The courage to leave a bad job, the courage to invest, the courage to start a business, the courage to negotiate, the courage to think long-term, the courage to not panic when life shifts. Why? Because fewer obligations and stronger assets give you room to move. And room to move is one of the purest forms of wealth. That's why this chapter is not just about getting rid of debt. It's about reclaiming your future. It's about making your income yours again. It's about making sure the money you work hard for has a chance to serve you instead of constantly cleaning up yesterday's decisions. So let me leave you with this. What would change in your life if your income stopped being consumed by toxic debt and started being directed toward assets, freedom, and peace? That's not a small shift. That's the shift from financial pressure to financial power. And once you feel that difference, even a little, you will never want to go back. Chapter 8. Asset 7. Your financial system. The invisible asset behind every fortune. Let me tell you something most people miss when they look at wealthy people. They see the results. They see the business, the real estate, the investments, the lifestyle, the visible assets. What they often don't see is the invisible machine behind it all. The system. That quiet, repeatable structure that makes money flow in the right direction over and over again. That is what this chapter is about. Because if you build assets without a financial system, wealth can slip through your hands. You can earn more and still feel broke. You can invest occasionally and still make little progress. You can have good intentions and bad outcomes. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to make financial progress almost automatically, while others rely on bursts of motivation and keep starting over? The answer is usually not discipline alone. It's systems. A financial system is the set of habits, accounts, rules, automations, and decisions that direct your money without requiring constant emotional effort. That may not sound exciting at first. It should, because systems are how ordinary people create extraordinary outcomes. If Chapter 1 taught you the new rules of wealth and the next chapters gave you the assets, this chapter gives you the engine that keeps everything moving. And here's the truth: motivation is unreliable. Willpower gets tired. Life gets chaotic. Unexpected bills show up. Work gets stressful. People forget. Emotions take over. A system protects you from being the weakest link in your own financial life. That is why it is an asset. You may not be able to see it on a balance sheet the same way you see money in an account or equity in a property. But a strong financial system is often the reason those visible assets exist in the first place. Think of it like plumbing. If the pipes are broken, it doesn't matter how much water you pour in. It leaks, floods, or goes nowhere useful. Money works the same way. A lot of people focus only on making more money. And yes, income matters. But if your financial system is weak, more income often just means bigger leaks. That's why some people double their salary and still don't build wealth. The system didn't change. Only the amount flowing through it did. More money without a better system can create bigger mistakes. Now let's define this clearly. A financial system includes things like how your income gets allocated, how and when bills are paid, how much gets saved automatically, how much gets invested automatically, how debt gets reduced, how spending is tracked, how emergency reserves are maintained, how big purchases are planned, how financial decisions are reviewed. This may sound simple. That's because it is. And simple is powerful. A lot of people think wealth is built through complicated strategies. Sometimes it is. But often it is built through simple behaviors repeated for years. Small rules, strong habits, low drama, clear direction. That's the invisible asset behind many fortunes. Now let's talk about why people resist systems. Because they do. People say they want a better financial life, but many avoid structure. Why? Because systems feel restrictive at first. They sound like budgeting, limits, rules, planning, spreadsheets, and saying no. That doesn't feel fun. But here's the twist. A good system does not reduce freedom. It creates it. Without a system, money becomes reactive. Bills surprise you. Savings happen if there's anything left. Investing becomes random. Debt lingers. Impulse purchases take over. Financial stress becomes normal. That is not freedom. That is drift. A system is what turns intention into reality. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to promise yourself you'll save, invest, or spend better, and then life just happens? That's because intention is fragile when it has to compete with convenience, stress, and habit. A system wins because it acts before emotion gets a vote. That's why automation is so powerful. When you automate saving, investing, bill payments, and transfers, you remove friction. You make the smart move the default move. And default behavior is where a lot of wealth gets built. Let's take a simple example. Imagine two people who both want to invest. One says, "I'll invest whatever I have left at the end of the month." The other sets up an automatic transfer the day after payday so money goes straight into an investment account before they can spend it. Who is more likely to succeed? Almost always the second person. Not because they care more, because their system is stronger. The first person is relying on leftover money and perfect behavior. The second person is relying on structure. Structure wins more often than self-control. That is one of the most important lessons in personal finance. Now let's talk about the psychology behind this. People often fail financially not because they are stupid or lazy, but because they make financial decisions in a state of constant cognitive overload. Too many bills, too many subscriptions, too many accounts, too many vague goals, too many temptations. Too little clarity. When your money life is messy, your brain gets tired. You avoid looking. You procrastinate. You make small emotional decisions that slowly become big financial patterns. A good financial system reduces decision fatigue. It tells your money where to go before the month gets noisy. That creates calm, and calm is underrated in finance. Calm helps you think long-term. Calm helps you avoid panic. Calm helps you stay invested. Calm helps you say no to nonsense. Calm helps you act like a builder. A system creates calm by replacing uncertainty with routine. Now let's look at what a simple but powerful financial system might actually include. 1. A clear money flow. Every dollar that enters your life should have a destination, not in a rigid, obsessive way, in a purposeful way. Income comes in. Then it gets distributed to categories like essentials, debt reduction, emergency savings, investing, opportunity fund, lifestyle spending, business or growth fund. The exact percentages will vary by income, family needs, and stage of life. But the principle stays the same. Money should be directed, not guessed at. 2. Automatic bill payment. Late fees are a tax on disorganization. A strong system pays recurring obligations automatically whenever possible, while still keeping enough oversight to avoid errors. 3. Automatic investing. This is one of the strongest wealth-building habits in existence. When investing becomes automatic, it stops being an occasional act of virtue and becomes part of your operating system. You don't debate it every month. You don't wait for the perfect market. You don't rely on memory. You build ownership by default. 4. A cash buffer. A good financial system includes some level of emergency reserve. Why? Because without buffer, every surprise becomes a financial emergency. And emergencies push people into debt, panic, and bad decisions. 5. Spending awareness. You do not need to obsess over every coffee or become a robot, but you do need awareness. Money leaks usually hide in convenience, repetition, and unconscious habits. A system makes spending visible. 6. Regular reviews. Maybe once a week for 10 minutes, maybe once a month for 30. You look at the numbers, check progress, adjust if needed, catch mistakes early. Wealth is easier to build when your money gets your attention regularly. Now let's talk about a real-life scenario. Imagine a couple, Maya and Jordan. They earn decent incomes, but they constantly feel behind. Not because they are irresponsible in some dramatic way. They just don't have a system. Bills are paid from the same account used for random spending. Savings happen inconsistently. Credit card balances linger because there's no plan. Some months they overspend and only realize it after the fact. Every money conversation feels tense because nothing is organized. Then they change one thing. They build a system. Paychecks hit one central account. A fixed amount automatically moves to savings. Another amount goes into investments. Bills come from a separate account reserved just for fixed expenses. Debt payments are scheduled intentionally. Spending money is capped in separate accounts. They review everything together once a month. What changes? Not just the math, the emotion. They stop arguing as much. They stop feeling surprised. They stop wondering where the money went. They start making progress they can see. That's what a system does. It turns chaos into clarity, and clarity is expensive to live without. Now here's an important point. Your financial system should match your life. A lot of people fail because they build systems they can't sustain. Systems that are too complicated, too strict, too unrealistic, too dependent on perfect behavior. If your system feels like punishment, you won't keep it. Your system should be simple enough to run during busy weeks, stressful months, and imperfect seasons. That may mean fewer accounts, Not more a simple percentage-based allocation instead of detailed categories, weekly check-ins, instead of daily tracking, automated transfers, instead of manual decisions, basic rules you can actually remember. You are not building a performance for social media. You are building a life support system for your money. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful ideas in this whole chapter. Your financial system should protect your future self from your present self. That sounds funny, but it's true. Your present self wants convenience, wants comfort, wants reward, wants relief, wants the easier option. Your future self wants security, options, assets, freedom, peace. A system is how future you gets a vote. When you automate investing, future you gets a vote. When you cap lifestyle creep, future you gets a vote. When you save before spending, future you gets a vote. When you review your numbers, future you gets a vote. That is how wealth gets built quietly, through repeated votes for the person you are becoming. Now let's make this deeply practical. If you want to build your own financial system, here's a straightforward approach. Step 1. Create separate buckets for your money at minimum. Consider separating bills and fixed expenses, daily spending, emergency savings, investing, debt payoff, or opportunity fund. This creates clarity and reduces accidental overspending. Step 2. Automate the essentials. Automate bill payments, savings, transfers, investment contributions, debt payments. Automation is one of the strongest forms of self-respect in finance. Step 3. Build a payday routine. Every time income arrives, have a repeatable plan for what happens next. Don't make it up each pay cycle. Decide once, then repeat. Step 4. Set spending boundaries that still let you live. A system should include room for joy. If every dollar is locked down so tightly that life feels miserable, rebellion is coming. Build controlled flexibility, some guilt-free spending, some fun, some breathing room. Sustainability beats intensity. Step 5. Use one weekly money check in 10 to 15 minutes. Review transactions, check balances, catch anything unusual, stay in touch with reality. The goal is not stress. The goal is awareness. Step 6. Use one monthly wealth check-in. Ask, did I invest this month? Did I reduce debt? Did savings grow? Where did money leak? What needs adjusting next month? That's how you keep your system alive. Step 7. Upgrade the system as your life grows. Your financial system at one income level may need to evolve as your income rises, your family changes, or your assets expand. Don't let an old system limit a new season. Now let's talk about why this chapter may be more important than it first appears. A financial system is not just a money tool. It is a trust-building tool. It helps you trust yourself, trust your plan, trust your progress, trust that your future is not random. That matters because a lot of financial stress comes from feeling out of control. A system gives control back, not perfect control because life will still surprise you, but directional control. And direction matters. You do not need to make every perfect move. You need to stop drifting. A person with a modest income and a strong system often builds more wealth over time than a higher earner with no system at all. Why? Because income creates potential. Systems turn potential into results. That is the invisible asset behind many fortunes. So let me leave you with this question. If your current financial habits continued for the next 5 years exactly as they are, where would they take you? That's a serious question. Because if the answer makes you uncomfortable, that's not bad news. That's useful news. It means the system needs to change. And once the system changes, the future can change with it. Quietly, steadily, powerfully. One automated transfer, one review, one rule, 1 month at a time. That's how invisible assets create visible wealth. Chapter 9. The Wealth Trap's 7 Mistakes That Keep Smart People Broke. Let's talk about something uncomfortable but necessary. Why smart people stay broke. Not lazy people, not reckless people, not people who don't care. Smart people, hardworking people, talented people, educated people, people with good intentions. People who should be doing better by now. Have you ever wondered why intelligence does not automatically lead to wealth? Because money is not just a knowledge game. It's a behavior game, a psychology game, a patience game, an identity game. You can be brilliant in one area of life and still make destructive financial decisions over and over again. You can understand complex ideas and still fall into simple money traps. You can earn well and still stay trapped in the cycle of stress, debt, and financial underperformance. That's because wealth is not built only by what you know. It's built by what you consistently avoid. A lot of financial success comes down to not stepping in the same holes everyone else steps in. This chapter is about those holes, the traps, the mistakes that quietly keep people stuck, the habits and beliefs that make income disappear, progress stall, and opportunities get wasted. And the reason this chapter matters so much is simple. Building wealth is not only about doing the right things. It's also about stopping the wrong things. Sometimes the biggest financial breakthrough in your life won't come from finding some brilliant new investment. It will come from removing the patterns that have been draining you for years. So let's go through 7 of the biggest wealth traps that keep smart people broke. Trap 1. Lifestyle inflation. Earning more, owning nothing. This is one of the sneakiest traps because it often feels like success. You get a raise. You upgrade the apartment. You upgrade the car. You eat out more. You travel better. You buy nicer things. Nothing crazy, just a little better every time income rises. And then one day you realize something strange. You make more than you ever have and still don't feel financially secure. Why? Because every increase in income was matched by an increase in lifestyle. This is lifestyle inflation. It is one of the main reasons people stay financially fragile even as their paycheck grows. The problem is not enjoying your money. The problem is letting every improvement in income become a permanent increase in obligations. Have you ever noticed how quickly a luxury turns into a normal expense? That's human psychology. We adapt fast. What felt exciting becomes expected. What felt special becomes baseline. And once something becomes baseline, it gets emotionally hard to go backward. That's why lifestyle inflation is dangerous. It quietly locks you into a more expensive version of your life before your assets have caught up. A person earning more but spending almost all of it is not building freedom. They are building a nicer cage. Action step. Every time your income rises, decide in advance where the extra money will go. Maybe 50% to investing, 25% to savings or debt reduction, 25% to lifestyle improvement. That way, success actually strengthens your future instead of just inflating your present. Trap 2. Confusing liabilities for assets. This is one of the oldest money mistakes in the book, and people still make it every day. They buy something that costs them money every month and call it an asset because it looks impressive, because it might hold some value, or because they want to feel successful. A luxury car with a huge payment is not an asset if it drains you. A giant house you can barely afford is not an asset if it owns your cash flow. A closet full of expensive status purchases is not an asset if it creates no income and loses value. An asset puts money into your pocket, grows in value, or increases your earning power. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Simple. But emotionally, people blur the line all the time. Why? Because human beings crave status. We want visible proof that we're doing well. We want to feel like we've made it. And the marketplace knows this. It sells image constantly. The danger is that some of the things people buy to look rich are the exact things that keep them from becoming rich. Real-life example. Two people get bonuses. One uses the bonus as a down payment on a luxury SUV with a large monthly payment. The other uses the bonus to wipe out a high-interest balance and start a small investment account. The first person looks wealthier. The second person is becoming wealthier. That gap matters. Action step. Before making a large purchase, ask, will this increase my net worth? Will this produce income or reduce future costs? Am I buying utility or am I buying identity? That question can save you years of drift. Trap 3. Waiting for the perfect time. This trap sounds smart. That's what makes it dangerous. People say, I'll start investing when the market feels safer. I'll buy real estate when rates improve. I'll start the business when I know more. I'll get serious when things calm down. And then they wait, and wait, and wait. Years pass. The perfect time rarely comes. Because there is always uncertainty, always noise, always some reason to delay. Have you ever wondered how much life gets postponed in the name of getting it exactly right? Perfection is often procrastination wearing a suit. Now, this does not mean rushing into reckless decisions. It means understanding that action with thought is usually better than endless waiting. Smart people often overthink themselves into inaction. They want clarity before movement, but clarity often comes from movement. You learn by doing. You adjust as you go. You become ready by starting. Action step. Shrink the size of the first move. Don't ask, how do I master investing? Ask, how do I open the account and start with $100? Don't ask, how do I build a giant business? Ask, how do I get one paying customer? Motion beats fantasy. Trap 4. Emotional spending and emotional investing. This trap lives in the nervous system. Stress spending, reward spending, boredom spending, revenge spending after a bad day, panic selling when markets drop, greedy buying when everyone is excited. Money decisions often feel logical in the moment. They are not. They are emotional. A lot of people don't have a math problem. They have an emotional regulation problem that shows up in their bank account. That may sound harsh. It's actually freeing. Because once you recognize the emotional patterns, you can interrupt them. Some people shop to soothe themselves. Some avoid opening bills because numbers create anxiety. Some throw money into whatever is trending because they fear being left behind. Some sell investments during downturns because uncertainty feels unbearable. That's not a finance issue alone. That's a behavior issue. Real-life example. A man invests aggressively when the market is booming because everyone around him is making money. Then a correction hits. He watches his account drop and panics. He sells near the bottom. A year later, the market recovers, but he missed the rebound. What hurt him? Not lack of intelligence. Lack of emotional discipline. Action step. Create rules before emotions show up. Examples. Wait 48 hours before any non-essential purchase above a certain amount. Never invest money you might need in the short term. Don't check long-term investment accounts obsessively. Have a written investment plan so fear doesn't rewrite your strategy mid-crisis. Rules protect you from moods. Trap 5. Depending on one source of income. This trap feels safe until it is. One job, one paycheck, one employer, one stream of money. That setup can work for a while. Until the company restructures, until your industry changes, until burnout hits, until life interrupts. If all of your financial survival depends on one source, you may be far more vulnerable than you realize. That doesn't mean everyone needs 10 side hustles. It means you should ask yourself, what happens if this one stream weakens? Have you ever noticed how quickly stable can become unstable? That's why building secondary income matters. It could be investing a side business, freelance work, digital assets, rental income, skills that increase your options. The goal is not chaos. It's resilience. Action step. Start one small second stream. Not 5. 1. Something that teaches you how money can come from a place other than your job. That lesson alone changes your thinking forever. Trap 6. Ignoring the math because the story feels good. This trap gets a lot of smart people because smart people are often very good at justifying their emotions with nice language. They say, "This property will probably appreciate. This car is worth it because I work hard. This degree will somehow pay off. This investment has huge upside. This business idea is my passion." Maybe, maybe not. Stories are seductive. Numbers are grounding. A person can talk themselves into almost anything if they want it badly enough. That's why math matters, not because numbers are exciting. Because numbers do not care about your hopes. If a property doesn't cash flow and depends on perfect appreciation, the story may be stronger than the deal. If a business has no margin and no demand, the dream may be stronger than the model. If a major purchase wrecks your monthly flexibility, your emotions may be stronger than your judgment. Action step. Before any major financial decision, force yourself to answer, what are the real costs? What are the likely downsides? What assumptions am I making? What happens if things go worse than expected? This is not pessimism. It's maturity. Trap 7. Believing wealth is built fast. This may be the most dangerous trap of all because it opens the door to all the others. When people believe wealth should happen quickly, they become vulnerable to hype, FOMO, scams, reckless leverage, trend-chasing, impatience, disappointment. They stop respecting the quiet process of wealth building and start hunting for shortcuts. And shortcuts are expensive. The truth is, wealth often looks boring while it is being built. It looks like regular investing, debt reduction, skills development, modest living systems, patience, repetition, not glamorous. Very effective. Have you ever wondered why slow, steady people so often beat flashy, intense people in money? Because flashy people often burn hot and burn out. Steady people compound. That's the game. Action step. Redefine what progress looks like. Progress is not only big wins. Progress is 1 debt paid off, 1 new skill learned, 1 month of investing automatically, 1 smarter financial boundary, 1 asset started. Respect small wins. They stack. Now let's zoom out for a moment. What do all these traps have in common? They are not usually caused by low intelligence. They are caused by short-term thinking, emotional decision-making, social pressure, lack of systems, lack of patience, confusion between appearance and reality. That's why smart people get caught too. Being smart can even make some traps worse, because smart people are often better at rationalizing bad behavior. They can explain the purchase, explain the delay, explain the risk, explain the exception, explain why their case is different. Sometimes the smartest financial move is not being brilliant, it's being honest. Honest about where your money goes, honest about what you're avoiding, honest about what image you're trying to protect, honest about what your habits are creating. That honesty is powerful because once you see the trap clearly, you can stop feeding it. Let's make this practical. Here's a quick self-audit. Ask yourself, has my lifestyle risen as fast as my income? Am I buying things that look like assets but act like liabilities? What financial move have I been delaying because I want perfect timing? What emotional states tend to trigger bad money decisions for me? How dependent am I on one source of income? Do I know the math behind my major financial choices? Am I acting like wealth should happen quickly? Just answering those questions honestly can shift your entire direction. And here's the encouraging part. If you've fallen into some of these traps before, that does not mean you're doomed. It means you're human. Most people touch several of them. Some live in them for years. What matters is not whether you've made mistakes. What matters is whether you keep repeating them. Wealth is often built by people who learn the lesson once and decide, not again. Not again will I let raises disappear. Not again will I finance my image. Not again will I wait forever to begin. Not again will I let panic control my investing. Not again will I rely on one fragile stream. Not again will I believe a beautiful story without checking the numbers. Not again will I chase fast money and sabotage slow wealth. That is where maturity begins. And when financial maturity begins, wealth usually follows. So let me leave you with one final question. Which of these 7 traps has been quietly costing you the most? And what would happen if you stopped feeding it starting today? That one change could be worth more than any hot stock tip, any trend, or any lucky break. Because avoiding the trap is often the first real step toward freedom. Chapter 10. Your 2026 Rich Plan, How to Start Building These 7 Assets Now. Now it's time to turn ideas into a plan, because information can inspire you for a moment. A plan can change your life. You've now seen the 7 assets that can help you build real wealth in 2026. Cash-flowing businesses, real estate stocks and index funds, high-value skills, digital assets. A strong balance sheet, a financial system, that's a powerful list. But let's be honest. A list can also be overwhelming. You hear 7 assets and your brain starts doing what brains often do. It starts overcomplicating everything. Should I start a business first? Do I need to pay off debt before I invest? Am I supposed to buy real estate now? What if I don't have enough money? What if I choose the wrong asset? What if I'm already behind? That feeling is normal. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, not because they don't care, not because they're not capable, because they are trying to figure out everything at once. Wealth rarely gets built that way. It gets built by sequencing. One smart step, then another, then another. Have you ever wondered why some people with average incomes make steady financial progress, while others with higher incomes keep spinning in place? It's often because one group has a clear plan and acts on it. The other group keeps waiting for clarity, motivation, or the perfect moment. A rich life does not begin when everything is perfect. It begins when you stop drifting. That's what this chapter is about, giving you a practical way to begin, no matter where you are right now. Because the truth is, not everyone should start in the same place. The person with high-interest debt and no savings should not follow the exact same first steps as the person with stable cash flow, no debt, and extra capital. The person with time but little money should think differently from the person with money but no time. That's why your 2026 Rich Plan has to be personal, not random, not emotional, personal. Let's start with the most important shift of all. Start where you are, not where you wish you were. This sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things for people to do. People compare their beginning to someone else's middle. They compare their real finances to someone else's curated online life. They compare their confusion to someone else's confidence. And then they freeze. That is a waste of energy. Your financial life changes the moment you stop trying to look advanced and start getting honest. How much do you earn? How much do you owe? How much do you save? What assets do you already have? What leaks are hurting you? What strengths do you have that you're underusing? That honesty is not punishment. It is power. Because once the truth is visible, the plan gets easier. Have you ever noticed how uncertainty feels bigger than reality until you finally look at the numbers? That's one reason people avoid their money. Vagueness feels scary, but vagueness is also expensive. So before anything else, your 2026 rich plan begins with a personal financial snapshot. Write down monthly income, monthly expenses, total debt, interest rates, savings, investment, skills. You can monetize assets you already own, time available each week for wealth building. This is your starting line, not your identity, not your limit, just your starting line. The 4 stages of wealth building. To make this practical, I want you to think of wealth building in 4 stages. Stage 1. Stabilize. This is where you reduce chaos. You build a financial system. You stop the bleeding. You create a small emergency buffer. You attack toxic debt. You track your money honestly. If your financial life is shaky, this is your first goal, not because it's glamorous, but because stability is what makes everything else possible. Stage 2. Increase fuel. This is where you grow earning power. You develop high-value skills. You negotiate better pay. You create side income. You improve your ability to generate cash flow. You are building more fuel for the machine. Stage 3. Acquire assets. Now you begin consistently buying or building assets. Stocks and index funds, business systems, digital products, real estate. Cash flowing projects. This is where your money starts gaining workers. Stage 4. Scale and protect. Once momentum grows, you focus on optimizing taxes, improving systems, adding more streams, protecting gains, and making your wealth more resilient. Different people are in different stages. The mistake is trying to live in stage 3 while ignoring stage 1. Now let's walk through what your plan might look like based on where you are. If you're broke, stressed, or living month to month, let's start here because a lot of people are here. If you're living close to the edge, the first move is not buy a rental property or launch a huge online business. The first move is to get breathing room. That means your first 3 priorities are: 1. Build a basic financial system. Separate your accounts. Automate bills. Track spending. Know where your money is going. Chaos is expensive. Clarity is the first asset. 2. Kill toxic debt. High-interest debt is probably one of the biggest reasons you can't move forward. Attack it with intensity. Keep a small emergency buffer so you don't fall backward, but make debt reduction a major focus. 3. Increase income through skills. You may not be able to invest much yet, and that's okay. Your most valuable move may be increasing your earning power. Learn a skill that can help you get promoted, help you change jobs, help you freelance, help you start a small side income. This is important because many people try to budget their way out of low earning power. Budgeting matters, but income growth matters too. Real-life example. Imagine someone earning a modest income with credit card debt and no savings. They start by tracking money, cutting obvious leaks, building a $1,000 emergency reserve, and learning a skill like sales or marketing on nights and weekends. Within a year, they move into a better paying role or start earning extra on the side. That extra income goes toward debt and investing. That is how momentum begins. Not with drama, with strategy. If you're stable but not building wealth, this is where many people live. The bills are paid, there's some savings, life is manageable, but there's not much real momentum. If that's you, your problem may not be survival, it may be drift. Your next move is to turn stability into growth. 1. Automate investing. Start with index funds if you haven't already. Set an automatic amount every month. Make ownership non-negotiable. 2. Build 1 extra income stream, not 5. 1. Maybe a service business, maybe a digital product, maybe freelance consulting, maybe a small e-commerce idea, maybe content that leads to paid opportunities. You are proving to yourself that money can come from more than one place. 3. Upgrade one high-value skill. This could increase your salary, strengthen your business idea, or make your side income more profitable. 4. Begin researching real estate. If it fits your goals, you don't need to rush. Learn your market. Study house hacking. Understand the math. Real estate rewards patience. Real-life example: a couple with decent jobs and low debt automates monthly investing, starts a small online service business on weekends, and uses the extra cash to build a down payment fund. In 2 years, they buy a duplex, live in one unit, rent the other, and cut their housing costs dramatically. That's how ordinary people build extraordinary leverage, one intentional move at a time. If you already have momentum, maybe you already invest. Maybe you have low debt. Maybe you have strong income. Maybe you own a property or run a business. If so, your 2026 rich plan is about expansion and protection. 1. Strengthen your balance sheet. Don't let success become sloppy. Keep reserves strong. Avoid unnecessary lifestyle inflation. Keep debt strategic. 2. Add systems. As wealth grows, complexity grows. Better systems protect you from losing ground through disorganization or emotional mistakes. 3. Diversify intelligently. You may want to add another asset class. From stocks into real estate, from business income into index funds, from employment into digital assets, from active income into passive systems. 4. Protect time. As your income grows, your next level of wealth often comes from protecting your attention and directing it toward high-leverage opportunities. This is where many people get rich financially but poor in time. Don't let that happen. The order matters more than the hype. One of the biggest mistakes people make is chasing the most exciting asset instead of the most appropriate one. A person drowning in credit card debt should not be obsessed with picking stocks. A person with no financial system should not be trying to scale 3 side hustles. A person with weak earning power may need skills before real estate. A person with no savings should not pretend leverage is their best friend. The order matters. Think of it like building a house. You don't start with the roof. You start with the foundation. Here's a smart general sequence for many people. Build a financial system, create a small emergency reserve, eliminate toxic debt increase. Income through skills, automate investing into index funds. Build one extra income stream or digital asset, explore real estate, or expand business ownership, strengthen and diversify over time. That sequence won't fit every person perfectly, but it's a far safer starting point than blindly copying someone online. Focus on the first asset that unlocks the next one. This is one of the most powerful ideas in the entire audiobook. Not every asset matters equally at every moment. Sometimes the right move is the one that unlocks the next move. For example, a high-income skill may help you save enough to invest. Debt reduction may free up cash flow for stocks. A side business may help fund real estate. A financial system may stop you from wasting the income. You already have a digital asset may create recurring income that lowers pressure at your job. Wealth is often built through unlocks. So ask yourself, what is the one asset that would make the next asset easier? That question can cut through overwhelm. Create your 12-month rich plan. Now let's make this even more real. I want you to imagine the next 12 months, not the next 20 years, not retirement, the next 12 months. What would make this year a genuine turning point in your financial life? Pick 3 outcomes. Only 3. Maybe your 3 are: pay off $8,000 of high-interest debt, invest automatically every month, build a side income stream to $500 a month, or Learn a skill that helps you earn $15,000 more, save a down payment fund, launch a digital product, or build a 6-month emergency fund, increase investment contributions, research, and buy your first cash-flowing property. 3 outcomes. That's enough. Then break each outcome into monthly actions. This matters because vague goals create vague behavior. I want to get rich is not a plan. I will invest $300 per month, complete a sales course, and get my first freelance client by June is a plan. Don't let identity hold you back. Now let's talk about something deeper. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to wealth is not math, it's identity. People carry old stories. I'm not good with money. I always mess this up. I'm not the type of person who invests. I'm too late. People like me don't build wealth. Those stories are heavy, and they are often inherited from family, environment, fear, or past mistakes. But they do not have to become your future. Have you ever wondered how many people stay poor simply because they still think like the version of themselves who had no options? That's why building wealth is partly an identity shift. You become someone who pays attention, buys assets, avoids bad debt, thinks long-term, creates systems, learns valuable skills, builds, instead of just consumes. That identity grows through action, not affirmations. You don't become wealthy by saying, "I'm wealthy." You become wealthy by repeatedly doing what wealth builders do. Small moves count more than big intentions. One of the best things you can do after finishing this audiobook is something very simple. Take one action in the next 24 hours. Not next month. Not when motivation returns. Not when the mood is perfect. In the next 24 hours. That action could be: open an investment account, list every debt balance, set up an automatic transfer, start a budget, enroll in a skill course, outline a business idea, create a savings bucket, research house hacking in your area. Draft your first digital product idea. Why does this matter? Because action breaks the spell of passivity, and passivity is expensive. A lot of people spend years thinking about improving their finances, but wealth belongs to people who move, not recklessly, but consistently. Your rich life is not just about more money. This is the part I don't want you to forget. The goal is not to become obsessed with wealth for its own sake. The goal is to build a life with more freedom, less fear, and more choice. More control over your time, more peace in your home, more flexibility in a crisis, more confidence in your future, more ability to help the people you love, more room to live on purpose. That is what assets do when used wisely. They buy back your life. So as you step into 2026, don't ask only, "How can I earn more?" Ask, "How can I own more? How can I build more? How can I reduce fragility? How can I create systems that keep working even when life gets messy?" That's how rich people think. And now that can be how you think too. So let me leave you with one final question. A year from now, when you look back on this moment, what will you wish you had started today? That's your answer. Start there. Start small if you need to. Start imperfectly if you must. Just start. Because 2026 will reward people who own, people who build, and people who act. And there is no reason that can't be you.